Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock. And I'm always smiling, and then I say it at the beginning because I have these beautiful conversations with my guests before we hit that record button. And so I'm super excited to learn from our guest today. And so today I have Tarah Kerwin. She's licensed marriage and family therapist, founder of Relationship Renovations, and we're going to talk about a number of things. One of the things I'm really curious about is the Relationship Renovation at Home program. So welcome, Tara.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing what you do and helping just provide resources, I'm sure, for all of your listeners and some normalization that we suffer, we heal, but if we do it the right way and we have other people in it with us, like we're a community.
Yes, that's beautiful. And for those watching the
Mhm.
YouTube channel, I just was like, oh my gosh, the Relationship Renovation podcast sign. It has hearts, right? And I
It
just
does.
literally put a post out on Facebook. I was walking our dog, Sammy, our Labradoodle, and I said, all right, come on, kiddo, let's go for a walk. She's 11, and so she's starting to slow down a
Oh,
little bit.
yeah.
But there's this magnificent oak tree here on Hilton Head Island in our neighborhood. And I always stop and I put my hand on it. And today she kept pulling me towards the trunk of this tree. Well, I looked down and I'll be darned if there wasn't a perfect heart on
Oh,
one of the roots. And so I took a
wow.
picture and then I stepped back to take a whole tree picture because she kind of leans, this tree leans, and I'm impressed that she's so strong.
Right.
And the whole top of her is a perfect heart as
I
well.
have goosebumps everywhere. I feel like I need to see this image.
Oh, I got to show you. I'm gonna pull up on my phone. I'm gonna show it in front of the camera right now because I
Oh, I
just,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Might as well do it, right? This is so off track, but we're gonna go ahead and do it while I have it. So, let me get to. So here, whoops. There's the heart in her root.
Oh, wow. That is the perfect heart.
It's like
That's
you can
beautiful.
see the pointy part, and then
Yep.
but then when I walked away, the top of
No,
the branches
Terry.
form a heart.
That is just
Do you see it?
fabulous. I do.
'Cause sometimes I see hearts where people are like, it looks like a donut. Like I don't see.
No, I for sure see the heart. It was beautiful. I love that. And I love that you
Yay.
saw it today before we had our interview.
Yes, I know. I know. That's a little extra for all you watching the YouTube video. And all you listening in, now you can pop over to YouTube. So,
Exactly.
all right. So let's talk about, well, can you share with us the motivation for what brought you to create and found the relationship renovation?
Oh, it's like, how much time do you have, Terry? I don't want to talk for too long. Well, in a nutshell, so I've been a marriage and family therapist for about 22 years. And I knew I wanted to work with couples. I was 4 years old. I didn't know it was called couples therapist. But my grandma would take me out to meals and stuff, and I would see couples that just looked really sad and they weren't talking. And I would just start crying. And my grandma would say, Tara, you'd want to go over there and give them a hug. And I was like, no. And so I just always had this empathic attunement, I think, to suffering in couples. Now, not to mention, I grew up in a very traumatic childhood and, have been diagnosed with complex PTSD. I've had the panic attacks. When I was reading your bio, I was like, oh my gosh, Terry, I've gone through so many things like that. And so I always knew, even when I was a child, and, I have a twin sister, and we were both in the thick of it and had lots of emotional and sexual abuse. I was like, I've got this thing inside of me that I'm not going to let this weigh me down. I know I have to be in this environment I got out when I was 14, so I'm so grateful for that. But I just always knew I had this resilience and that I wanted to use that resilience in my profession. And so I became a couples counselor. I believe I was 22. I was terrified because I was little and young and my voice was little, and these families would come in and these couples dealing with infidelity, and they would be like, how do you know what we're going through? And I would be like, I don't, but my heart is open. I mean, and so me just having that, I just want to say that empathic ability has allowed me to have awesome success with couples counseling. Fast forward, Oh, let's see, 37 years old. I was private practice with couples on the side, and I was specializing in eating disorders. I also loved working with eating disorders. So I moved from California to Tucson to go work and get my specialty credential at this eating disorder recovery center. And I meet EJ. EJ is like this awesome. I'm like, this guy is like the coolest therapist I've ever seen. He was married, he had two kids. I just thought he was the coolest guy ever. And I'll never forget, like, the first time, the first week I was in his orbit, I was like, I want to marry someone just like EJ. Mind you, I'm like 35 at this time. I had never been married. I was scared of it because of all the couples I would see. And I just knew, like, even if I don't find that person, like, I'll be okay. But I just remember thinking, like, EJ's so cool. Like, I want to find a guy just like him. Fast forward 6 months later, he's going through a wicked divorce and we're really good friends. And so I was like, EJ, we're going to find you a rebound. We're going to get you out. Like, what happened to him was so bad. And he
Oh,
had two kids. They were like 1 and 3 at the time. So a bunch of us coworkers go out that night and we're like trying to find, I was his wing sister and he kissed me. And we have not been apart since. And I tried to break up with them. I tried all my things and he just wouldn't let me play my little games like I would, right? I was like a serial monogamous, like, oh, as soon as my trauma starts to get surfaced, I'm out of here. And EJ was just someone different. And I just remember I woke up one day and I said, I don't want to do life without EJ. I've never had that clarity. I'm a great picker in men of men. Despite the abuse I had, I always looked for very safe, emotional, safe guys who are kind of like nerdy, like cute nerdy, but like where I could kind of have all the power in the emotional way. But EJ was just different. He like set boundaries and like I just couldn't do what I used to do. And so I loved it. So we started dating and, we had the kids 50% of the time. I'd never had dated anybody with kids. And then a year later, he proposed. We get married, we go on a honeymoon, and I come back pregnant with twins.
oh,
So here's where I thought I was really good with trauma and like, oh, like I'm like can manage my trauma and a therapist and I've always done my own work. Little did I know just how that trauma would get triggered in an environment with, I went from 0 to 4 kids in a year and a half. The twins both had colic. And if people don't know what colic means, it's they cry 18 hours a day. You cannot soothe them.
oh,
I would nurse every hour. I would stay up for 5 days at a time. This is like in the first year. And I just remember thinking, like, I had never been more uncomfortable in my body. Like, my nervous system was just done. And I just was like, I did not sign up for this. I'm out of here. Like, I just wanted to leave and get out. But I couldn't because I have these twins and this minivan, and I can't just drive out of state. And so I was like, something more is happening here. And that's when EJ and I, right, we were always really good. And then we just had massive breakdown. And I'll never forget, I called him and I said, EJ, if two therapists are having this difficult of a time in this transition, and we have the skills and we've had good communication, and I know I love you, I'm like, we have to help our community and we have to figure us out first. So this was the start of Relationship Renovation Counseling Center. It took 2 years for us to get it all, where it felt good, where we felt good. But I just knew, like, God, universe put this on me so I could get through it again, just like I've gone through a lot, to then help others. Because the amount of couples we've helped, like, it just brings tears to my eyes. It's um it's amazing. And I just feel like it was a curse at first. I felt like I was being punished. But now I'm just like 8 years later, almost 9 years later, we have a team of 15 therapists that are all trained in our model. We're open 7 days a week, and I can pass by our office because we live right next to it, and you see couples hugging in the parking lot.
oh.
So it's just that, like, whenever I have this story, I just get so emotionally overwhelmed because it would have been so easy to leave. But that part of me, that resilient piece from maybe the trauma I went through or knowing that I loved EJ, like I just, and being a therapist, I was like, I've got to like look at this and go through this. And yeah, here we are now just sharing our story, and people love it and they relate to us, and we still have our stuff and we share that on episodes, and people are like, thank you, because we have the skills now. And I think so many couples and individuals don't realize it takes skills to make a relationship work. Like I just, I like just thought, oh, we're just good. EJ's cool. We're just going to be good. I had no idea how much stress would trigger trauma responses. And then I would, I saw him as the enemy. Like, how dare you do this? Like, I didn't sign up for this. I deserve an adult life that feels calm now. Like, I had to deal with all this crap when I was a child. And then we were able to U-turn it with all of the lessons and interventions and tools. We have many in our relationship renovation model, which we did make an at-home version too. So I know that was a lot and I'm talking a lot.
No, my gosh, I mean, but talk about wow, like poster child for turning your pain into purpose. And thank you for
I
sharing. I
love
mean,
that. Pain into purpose. Yes.
yeah, just absolutely beautiful. And I found over the years, like I said, I'm coming up on 8 years with this show and all these beautiful healers, as I label so many people like yourself,
Hmm.
that come on, and how many have been through something hard,
Yeah.
horrific trauma and been able to come out into the light and then reach their hand back into the darkness or back into the, where people are struggling. And so, yeah, I just applaud you. Resilience is one of my favorite topics because, um, when I took the ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences assessment,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh my God, I score a 10 out of 10. Well, that's just craziness right there. Then I was like, wait a minute, there's another part. Let's take this resilience score, and scored super high, like an 8 out of 10 on
Yes.
that. And I said, oh, that explains how I got through it all. Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, again, thank you for sharing that. So now, relationship renovation. I know you've got the relationship renovation model, and then you have the at home. What is it? What's the base of it? Is it groups? Is it individual therapy? Are
No,
there programs?
it's a model based on taking couples through. So, what we decided when we were developing all of this, and I have been doing couples therapy forever, and EJ was like, I've only done a few sessions. I don't like doing couples. I'm like, well, just hear me out. We're like, let's set up a structured way for couples to come in and heal. And it's about 4 to 6 months. Every couple is different, though. I mean, I'm on with one couple 5 years. Every couple's different. But I said I just knew that couples come in and they want to vent, 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 and then they leave and they come back and they vent, vent, vent. And I said it's okay for them to vent, but I don't want to get caught up in that triangulation with them. And so we set up a very it's been amazing. We had no idea how successful it would be. A model where you are like in the beginning, you're doing the assessment and you're looking for like where do we want to go? What's the road we want to go down? And then we go and we take them through attachment stuff. So we go through their entire childhood and their genogram and family systems and generational trauma. And we help them understand themselves and each other in a way that is so compassionate and empathetic, because most couples come in and it's like, stop doing that to me. And if you would just be different. And they think they're the only person they're doing this to. And like whatever they're doing is annoying. Well, when they're in session and they're going through their early childhood family and recognizing how their parents regulated their own emotions, the partner gets to be like, oh, it's not just me that's causing them to act this way. Like they've been stuck or withdrawn or avoidant or anxious since they were like 6, 7, 8 years old. So we see couples, we take them through this very, I mean, it's like in depth, but it's beautiful attachment piece. And then we have a communication series. We teach active listening, reflective listening, mirroring, how to do I statements. We take them through a intimacy series, right? Where they get to talk about what did they learn about sex. Usually it's like, don't do it until you're in love. And then you're like already shame around like, okay, but I'm in love, but I heard it was bad. So we just help them understand each other at like a heart level, and that all those symptoms, resentment, toxicity, no sex, those were just symptoms of them not really knowing each other because they didn't know the layers of themselves. And so usually by session, I mean, it's about 18 lessons, 18 sessions, but again, every couple is so different. We go into this, what's called old story, new story. So old story is like, here's how we showed up. And new story, it's narrative therapy. Here's what we've moved into, and we're going to continue moving in this direction. And here's our red flags if we're going back into the old story. So it's not like it's done and they have the relationship of their dreams, but they've developed emotional safety with each other. There's no more threat to the relationship. Like it's either this or we're divorcing. And now they can be who they need to be, imperfect with each other, unconditional love. Like I can mess up and I can yell and I can not be my best self, and you're still going to love me and we're going to repair it because we have the skills to do it now, but it's like this, the shift that happens with couples is incredible. And so that is the model itself. And then when the pandemic hit in 2020, I was like, EJ, we've got to do an at home. Obviously, there's not a therapist there to be that facilitator. So we definitely made it less intensive, but couples all around the world love it. And they want us to start online coaching globally now. So we're developing that this year because so many couples are like, oh, we get stuck here. And I'm like, got you. So now we opened up a second company so that we can do global coaching to not impact our licensing in Arizona. It's hard being a therapist to also separate it out as a coach, but we found a way where we can do it. And so, so we did the at-home program for couples who they get stuck in some places. We say it's not for couples who need therapy. And if you are, like, you guys just get cut up because your defense mechanisms are so much. But for most couples, the at-home program, it just helps them understand each other better and develop the skills to get through this crazy, chaotic life, especially like during transitions. Couples don't recognize transitions are really stressful. And humans don't like transitions. We just want things to stay the same. And so when a transition happens, it could be big or small, it rattles us, but we don't have the skills to say, oh, I know why that's happening. We just try to, why is this happening? So a lot of different interventions and psychoeducation around here. You're not uniquely broken. Like we all struggle with intimacy and communication. It is not our go-to to be like, oh, I hurt you. Oh, help me understand how I just hurt you. It's like, you know what? You hurt me worse. Go F off.
Yeah, right. Right. Well, I'm so glad that you talk about that underlying current of trauma, and particularly childhood trauma, and how
Yeah.
if you haven't done the processing work yet. I know when I stepped onto the healing path in 2013, I I said, I've got to go see a therapist. Like it's time for me to go see somebody. I was
Yeah.
having severe panic attacks and just struggling.
Yeah.
And so I show up at this therapist with a list of 5 things. Number one was this incredibly toxic friendship that I felt very stuck in, but I didn't know how to get away. But it was very narcissistic, like very drawn to this
Mm.
narcissist. Number two, I was in the middle of a divorce and leaving my ex-husband. Number three, I had a teenager that was very angry at me for leaving his father. Number four, my mom was still actively drinking, so I was caught in
Oh.
that relationship of codependency. And then number five was, oh yeah, if we have time to get to it, I had all this childhood trauma. Like that was, and then I remember her being like, okay, well, number five is what is infiltrating the other four.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, it's so funny because I relate to that so much, Terry. Like I would always take care of everybody else first, right? Even with laundry, it's like my laundry is the last to be put away. And sometimes it doesn't get put away, but everybody else's did, right? And so I feel like it parallels what your process was. Like, and by the way, number five is,
Yeah.
but that's when you're just like, oh my, I mean, especially right when I went from 0 to 4 kids.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
talk about the over functioning. I remember when my therapist said, Tara, you're an over functioner. And I was like, huh? And then I was like, she explained it to me. I'm like, that's what I do everywhere in my business, with other therapists, with my family, in my own family. Yeah, and it was making me sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So very true. Well, I'm so glad that you're able to do the coaching piece of it. And I've heard because of the licensing of with therapists that there's many that are transitioning into coaching because they can still do incredibly beautiful and helpful work without the constraints of licensing. So yeah.
I will say the one gift that I feel like my degree has given me is just that trauma knowledge and being able to be in a community for 20 years. And, I'm one to like, I'm going to go through that modality to make sure that I can feel what that feels like. I mean, I've been through the EMDR, I've been through DBR, deep brain reorienting, been through cognitive behavioral. I'm currently in internal family systems. Like, I'm just one to always want to go through like all of the stuff to make sure, because our therapists are, they're all trained in different modalities, but they follow the model, which is great. They keep the couples in, if you will, in routine and structure, so much to say, but they can use any kind of modality. And I just feel like that's important for me as a therapist to know, oh, that's what that modality feels like. And that's the, kind of like the psychoeducation for that piece and why that works.
Yeah, and
I'm
as
just,
a myself, I've done, yeah, emotional or the I said almost
EFT.
said EFT, but IFS, and I've done the somatic, and I've done the EMDR, and I've done the CBT, like because I
See, we're
too,
very similar.
yeah, I know. I want to learn, like I want to understand. And interestingly for me, sometimes some things work, and sometimes other things work better. And so I love having this giant toolbox, as I call it, yeah, to utilize. So I think it's wonderful that you have, gosh, so many of you in your team, that can
Yeah.
speak to, yeah, the
Well, I
benefit.
mean, that's so important because I remember at first with when EJ and I we were breaking down, and like I knew I loved him, like my heart said that, but he like was so avoidant, but he thought he was like the Buddha, like he was a meditator, and I remember I once called him like a Buddhist mother effer. I was like, dude, you've got some stuff. Like it's not, I'm just not the crazy one. But I had always seen him as calm and chill because we had never had to experience stress like that. So not only did this right, birth of the twins, blended family, all of the stuff, like he realized how avoidant he was because I would say, listen, I'm going to do the work, but you have to too. And I'm going to be your blind spot. Like you've got some stuff, I can feel it, I can see it in your eyes. And so, like, that both led us to our own individual work where he was able to see just like how avoidant he was, but he just did not have access to it. And so, I would say for our listeners on our podcast, hearing like more of the avoidant dismissive attachment styles and EJ talking about how like I don't think he ever would have been able to get to where he's at had I not always challenged him and had I not modeled doing the work is important. So both of us have to do it. It's not just one, but it took, he still gets defensive, but it took like 8+ years to get him where we could finally build emotional safety the way we have it now. And I was patient, he was patient, but it's not like oh, we're going to go through this relationship renovation model and emotional safety is like, it takes work on both parts, and what I wanted to say is you're such an a-hole, like, but I recognize now he's avoidant because, right, his dad was a rager. He was terrified of conflict. Nobody took care of him. He was an only child. He hid and then he meditated.
Yeah.
So it's just another piece of it, like within a coupleship, that both people are doing the work. And you know what? If one person doesn't, you can still change. And then you get to have a choice, a choice out of clarity instead of fear.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And you're so speaking to me because so, and this is not couples related, but still relationship related in that I remember standing at the foot of my mom's hospital bed when she was in her early 80s and saying to her, Mom, as tears streamed down my face, it's time for you to deal with your childhood trauma. And
Wow.
like just I had already done so much of my healing work, and I said, "You are obviously self-medicating by diving into a bottle of vodka." And I said, "What happened to you?" And my
Wow.
sister was next to me. We were so blown away because here she was in her 80s, and finally unleashed it all and
Wow.
started to talk about, a neighbor that had burned her with cigarettes while he was molesting her at 4 years old. And, just the things that had gone on in her that she had never said out loud and never shared with anyone.
Mm.
And I'm telling you, well, she went on a 2.5 year sober ride. Like, she stopped drinking, which we
Oh,
never thought she would do, because and she started to see two therapists and started to realize that, oh my gosh, this underlying what had happened in her life, it had just infiltrated everything about her existence. And
oh,
it was so beautiful. So I thank you for sharing EJ's,
yeah. It's never
his
too
part of the
late. Yeah.
story. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing, it's never too late. We had a couple, they were in their 80s. She had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. They had both been academia, right? So never none of this emotional stuff. They both traveled, they both wrote papers, and she finally was like, "I need you to be emotional with me." And he's like, "Okay, like I'm ready to learn emotions." He was 86 years old, Teri. And you know what? He got to be there for her. She passed away within 6 months of the therapy, but he got to be there for her. And he hated studying emotions. He brought me back this napkin that says, "I have mixed drinks about feelings." But it's, to give them that 6 months of connection because they just didn't have it in their brain. And that's the thing. Like, we're always on feelings, on feelings, and feelings. There's so many people that got disconnected from feelings because it wasn't safe, that we feel like feelings aren't safe, right? Panic attacks. They come up from like suppressed, massive, big emotions that we didn't know how to, and your little body can only handle so much of that energy. Bam, panic attacks happen. I've had many of them. It was awful. I was a therapist, like, this isn't a panic attack. I'm having a stroke. I deal with people having panic attacks. This is no panic attack. They give me an Ativan in the hospital. 30 minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, that was a panic attack. What the heck?
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, being able to help people know that all feelings are okay, big or small, and how to help our nervous system start to regulate that. That's that first piece of freedom, not protecting ourselves. Whether you're in a coupleship or just, on your own, like it's freedom. It's freedom so we don't have to live in this prison that, a lot of us do, unfortunately, or like in your mom's case, had to medicate for probably 6 decades,
Yeah,
if not
exactly.
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she
And
had her 2.5 years of sobriety. I just love that story, Terry.
she did. Thank you. Thank you. She passed on my birthday in 2023.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately, she had received a diagnosis of liver cancer and cirrhosis of the liver. So she took that as God's sign of she could dive back into the bottle, which, was led to her demise. But we still celebrated her, and it was just such a gift to be able to be with her in hospice in the end. So,
Absolutely. And to have that opening of her own suffering when she was a 4-year-old girl.
yeah.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful. Well,
So
gosh, we've
beautiful.
already hit our
I
limit.
know.
I certainly wanted to give you an opportunity maybe to leave folks with any final thoughts, or if there was something that you wanted to touch upon that we didn't have an opportunity to.
I mean, I think if listeners want to hear more about us, just our website, relationshiprenovation.com, has everything. It has our podcast episodes. It has the information about R&R at home. If you are in Arizona and you feel like you want to have couples counseling, it has, everything about our team and our mission. And other than that, I just feel grateful to meet a healer as well, individually and for others. And no, I think this has felt really good today.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for, yes, being here and sharing your beautiful work and your stories, because I mean, that's what, right? We all resonate when we share our truths. What a profound impact it has on other people. So thank you.
I have to end with this. Emotional safety, right? So many people don't even know what that means or feels like. And that, yes, it could take a while to build it, But when emotional safety is developed, whether it's for you or in the coupleship, it's a game changer because life already feels stressful. And when the two of you can manage it together and not feel like isolated in your suffering, life is way more manageable and emotional safety can happen. I mean, if it happened with EJ and I, it can happen for anybody. So that's what I would like to end this podcast with.
And I say amen. I'm in a beautiful marriage
Amen.
and second marriage, and it's just, oh my gosh, we just feel so very safe with one another. And it's just beautiful. It's beautiful to be in a loving, open communication relationship. So there you go.
Absolutely. I'm so happy for you. You deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you. And you as well. So again, what is your website so folks can connect with you?
It is relationshiprenovation.com.
Awesome. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you again. And
Thanks, Teri.
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock here. Just wanted to thank you again for being a part of this healing space and my hashtag hope for healing journey. Thank you for sharing, liking, inviting others to join, listening in. You've really helped this show blossom. It has now been downloaded in 136 countries and is in the top 2% globally out of 3.2 million shows, which is just amazing. And it's all because of you and your tuning in and inviting others and sharing and liking and loving. And your reviews on Apple really help too. My goal is to hit 100 5-star reviews by the end of the year. And I am closing in on that. So if you are listening in on Apple or Apple Podcasts, please go and rate the show and leave a review if you absolutely love it. And I would be most appreciative. Also, if you would like to receive my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, please be sure to go to teriwellbrock.com. It's Teri, just one R, WELLBROCK.com. And I have a gift to send you for signing up for that monthly Hope for Healing newsletter. Plus, there are many other resources listed on that page, including a resource library. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.